these customer service jobs, these really difficult jobs, these emotionally draining jobs. Some of us are really out here, and you would never know it based on the checks that we take home, based on how much we have left once we pay our bills, once we pay our way. Like, this is really, really like, oh my God, I can't even express how irritating this is. All right, y'all. So I can't even lie. I just filmed like so much footage, and none of that shit was in focus. All of it was just a little fuzzy, a little too fuzzy for my liking, but I'm not refilming any of that because I got my stuff off my chest. I'm ready to move on with everything else that's on my chest. So I will either upload it or not, but it's a wrap. What a bow on top. Moving on. Vamos. So I specifically wanted to talk about the search for shelter throughout this entire experience. I think I mentioned a couple times that my search for a new place to stay began on April 1st. It began as soon as this fuck shit happened, right? And yet I was homeless on July 1st. I was facing homelessness that entire time and facing it after July 1st. Now, I could sit here and be like, it's because I didn't look hard enough or da 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 da. But the reality is that I kept running into what I would consider flaws in the system. And I thought to myself, like, I cannot be the only person who's ever been in this situation. I am not the only foster child out there. I am not the only emancipated minor out there. I am not the only person who's ever, like, moved from house to house, living arrangement to living arrangement, family to family. And yet, people don't have an answer for me. People keep on telling me they never heard of somebody in my situation. They don't know, da 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 da. And that therefore there were no, like, I guess you could say, like, there was nothing that anybody knew how to do in order to help me. And that is a problem. That is a problem, not just, or that was a problem for me, but that's a problem for whoever else is coming in my footsteps, you know? Because like I said, I'm not the only one who has gone through what I've gone through, who has been in the situations that I've been in. Or at least I refuse to believe. But let me just provide some more context so there is, I think, like a better understanding to be had overall. I contacted like every organization in Cook County. I contacted the suburban Cook County line. I contacted Salvation Army. I contacted churches. I contacted Section 8. The woman from Section 8 blew me until I was purple, bro. She literally told me, let me just say how the conversation went. I asked her, I said, like, I need financial assistance and stuff. She basically said there's no assistance at this time. I said, okay, well, do you know when there will be assistance? And she said, no ma'am, like, nobody knows. And I said, well, like, is there a timeline? Like, when does the assistance or when do the vouchers disperse? And she said, I don't know. She said it could happen at any time. Like, there's no way for her to know. What kind of aid is that? I don't know if she was pulling this out of her butthole, but if she was indeed telling the truth, what kind of aid is that? I'm sorry, but I literally asked her, I was like, so I have to basically check the website every single day or sign up for some sort of notification or whatever to find out when Section 8 will have vouchers available in my area just to get some assistance? What is that? What kind of assistance is that? So you mean to tell me people have to sit here and check this website every single day because the whatever resources this organization Section 8 is dependent on is that inconsistent? that is an issue, especially when you got so many people, so many low-income families who are relying on subsidized housing, who are relying on these vouchers from Section 8 just to have food on the table, just to have shelter. What do you mean when you say like there is no way for you to know when the aid will be dispersed or when the organization will get the vouchers? I just thought, my blood pressure, I was like, Lord have mercy. Like, that's the issue in itself. However, just circling back, I contacted so many agencies. Okay, I went to the city of Evanston, but even before I went to the city of Evanston, I actually applied, or I mean emailed the city manager. I was I was referred by someone from the emergency assistance program. Oh, Lord have mercy. Let me tell you about the emergency assistance program if I have not done so already in another video in this installment. The emergency assistance program that is administered through the city of Evanston, I personally found a fault within, or a flaw within. I say that because the way the program works is when you apply, part of the application process, or one of the requirements, is that you provide a lease, proof that you are indeed, like, that you've been given a place to stay and that you do have like a place essentially. And I'm thinking to myself, the reason I need this financial assistance is because I don't have the funds at the moment to go get the place myself. So the reason it's like I cannot provide a lease to you because I don't have a place yet. Everybody keeps on telling me no. Literally, private landlords, these real estate agencies, they all keep on telling me no, because they've never heard of someone, or they keep saying, they're like, oh, I've never heard of this emergency assistance program. I don't know anything about that. I don't want to get involved. Like, if somebody cannot pay their rent, they literally said to the person who was helping me find housing, which I'll get to, they literally said to her like, oh, like if she cannot afford to pay her rent, then I don't want anything to do with that. And it's like, we literally just broke down to you, sir, that I have a job. I have proof of employment. You can call my boss, but you guys don't want to do any of that. When it comes down to the money, since that's what motivates everybody in this fucking country, when it comes to the money, because I don't have that yet, and even though it's coming from in the city of Evanston, it's like, it's not like I'm like, oh, my dad might get it to you guys. No, the city is like, I have proof that this is a program. This is a real thing. And they keep saying, I never heard of it. Well, motherfucker, I just told you about it. What do you mean you never heard of it? I just told you about it. It was so irritating because on the side of the landlords, the homeowners, the people who, the property managers, they kept saying, oh, we never heard of that. We never heard of that. We don't want anything to do with that. Like, we just need, the money to be provided. And then when I would go to the person who conducts or is a part of the emergency assistance program, when I tell her like they need some kind of statement, some proof that you guys will provide the aid, they're like, the only way you will get that is if you provide a lease. So here I was in this weird ass limbo that made no sense at all. Here I was in this situation where they're like, no one can help me because neither parties are willing to comply, even though we all speak the same fucking language. These people keep on saying to me, oh, you need to have something that I don't have, which are the funds. And then the people who are providing the funds keep on saying, well, we need to know like which organization is gonna give you the place to stay. And then I tell them like, I can't get a place to stay. Like, you guys, I asked the person, like, can you communicate on my behalf? And she's like, nope, we don't get involved. We don't communicate to landlords. We need you to provide the rent, we need you to provide the lease. So basically, long story short, the emergency assistance program was of no help to me. I think that the city or whoever, handles that, they need to do something about that, because because that is ridiculous, damn ridiculous if you ask me. I don't understand that at all. You guys are not willing, the people from the city are not willing to speak to the landlords, speak to these property owners, speak to these private homeowners who are renting. You know, it's like, here's another thing. I'm at a loss for words. Here is another thing. All of these real estate agents kept telling me, we never heard of this. We don't know anything about that. And I don't know if they're lying, but say they're telling the truth. This is my question. How is it that these organizations are allowed, they are permitted by the city to conduct their services here? They are allowed to have their real estate agency and rent out their properties to residents in this town. My question during all of this became, who are you renting your property to? If you've never heard of this emergency financial assistance program, if you've never had someone say to you, oh, I'm not able to pay the funds right now, that's why this organization will be paying on my behalf. Who are you? Are you only renting to rich, wealthy people who have a 785 credit score or something like that? Like that, it started to get very weird for me when every single agency in this town tells me, oh no, you need to have this. I call this shit right here was very telling to me. I don't know if it's an Evanston-based company, but the company that has properties in Evanston, and I saw several of them. I contacted the property manager, and I had seen a couple of them, so I knew like I wanted one of the places, right? I contacted the property manager, and then I call the place, I call the number that's on the ad, and this woman, the receptionist, she answers. I'm not going to say her name, but I know who you are. I remember you very, very well. She answers. I tell her a little bit about my situation. I tell her like I just need to talk to the property manager and explain to him these are my circumstances, so you know that if that impacts the way I apply, because whatever. And she flat out tells me, okay, well, we won't be able to help you with that situation. And I'm like, so you're going to, so you, the receptionist, you are going to decide on the property manager's behalf that I cannot stay somewhere, that I cannot be given this property, I can't even be considered. I think the fuck not. I said, excuse me, can you transfer me to the property manager, please? Because your name is not property manager. I don't know who you think you are. You are the receptionist. Listen, if I'm a food server, I'm not making the decisions on behalf of HR. That's not a part of my description. That's not what I'm here to do. It's just like, can you please stay in your lane? I felt like that was so disrespectful. Like, girl, please don't do it. Because best to believe if you were in my situation, you would fully understand how out of bounds you are, denying me the service. It's like, girl, nobody asked you. This is not your decision. Bye. Anywho, I told her, can you please connect me to the voicemail? She connected me to the voicemail. She told me well beforehand that he would be back between a certain time. Okay, that certain time came and I never heard from Shorty. So I called back. Okay, because I'm on a deadline. I have stuff going on. I call back and I tell her, like, can I have his contact information? Can I have a phone number? Can I have an email? Because I just need to know if this is a place that I can consider or not while it's available, you know? Long story short, she has an attitude with me and everything, but she gives me the information and I give him a call. I leave him a voicemail one day. I leave him a voicemail another day, never hear back. I got his email. I email him, never hear back. So I get on their website, like this is week 2 or something. I don't hear nothing. I get on the website. I fill out the contact me form and I get this automated message from another property manager. And on the message, I have his like extension or everything. So I call Shorty one day and I tell him, listen, I've just been trying to get in contact with such and so about these properties that I've seen. I'm not hearing anything back. I just need to know if it's available and, you know, if I can speak to him or da da da. And he says, okay, well, he's not available. The same thing that the receptionist tells me, he's not available. Okay, where the fuck is dude? If he's not available, why take his name off the damn website? What is going on here? This man tells me on the phone, he's not available, but I can answer any questions that you may have and stuff like that. And he basically tells me, no, not basically, literally tells me that I need to be making 4 times the amount that they asked for rent in order to stay there. I said, Negro, please. That is the first that I've heard in all the organizations I contacted in Chicago, in Evanston, and the nearby towns. This is the first that I'm hearing anybody tell me, specifically after I broke my situation down to him. He wants to get creative and tell me I need to be making 4 times the amount. I need to have this credit score. And to be honest, I do feel like I feel like he lied. I feel like he probably stretched the information a little bit just to deter me, just to make sure that I was no longer interested. Because best to believe, when he said you're making 4 times the amount, I have 2 fucking issues with that. Despite the 4 fingers I just held up, I have 2 issues with that. Numero uno, when you say that I need to be making 4 times the amount, who do you know is making 4 times? Let's say the rent was $1,000 a month. Let's keep the math simple. Who do you know is bringing home $4,000 a month, who is within my age bracket, who has not completed college, who has nothing but a high school diploma, and who she is? Like, who do you know in this town that fits that criteria? So when you get creative and you set this bar, it's clear to me that's the way you guys want to discriminate. That's the standard that you guys want to hold. And I understand that as a private business, you are permitted. You are literally legally allowed to discriminate, because we all know good and hell well only a percentage of people in this town, in Evanston, is out here bringing home this amount of money each month. And it's definitely not people who are my age, with no type of college degree or nothing, with nobody paying their bills or nothing like that. So when you tell me I need to be making $4,000, on top of that I need a 785 credit score or whatever the fuck he pulled out of his ass, yeah, okay, goodbye, sir. Because I was just like, that's a wrap. My number one issue was just like, who is supposed to meet this criteria? Some elderly person who has slaved away their entire life, done nothing but build their credit score and work? Who is supposed to meet this criteria? And then second of all, if say this is your criteria, my second issue was, why is it that y'all don't have no type of policy in place? Y'all don't have nothing or there is no policy that forces your business to work with people who don't meet that criteria. You know, because we can all get there someday. Best to believe, if the minimum wage increases and the cost of living decreases, best to believe we can all be bringing home $4,000 a month or something like that. Best to believe we could all one day get a $785 credit score. Best to believe we could all get there if the systems weren't set up the way that they are. And I think this organization, like many businesses out there, especially when it's all white people in place, I do think they are aware. People are aware of the systems in place, and they play the game, of setting these criteria in place to make sure this is the clientele we have, this is the business that we keep getting. Because that's the only way I can rationalize or come to terms with a business that's requiring a 700 800 credit score or whatever. On top of that, you need to be bringing home this. On top of that, you need a cosigner. What do you do when someone's an emancipated minor? What do you do when someone doesn't have a cosigner? Bitch, I am my cosigner. Now what? So what do you do for my situation? You just throw me to the curb. I have to depend on subsidized housing. I have to depend on Section 8. Literally what this experience taught me is a lot, but one of those things being that when it comes to where you decide you're going to live, not where you grow up, But where you decide you're going to live, it's important to see how business is conducted. It's not just in the restaurants, but when it comes to real estate as well. Look at the kind of people who own the apartment complexes. In Evanston, there are like a few big names that own these buildings out there. So it's like the residents end up being a certain type of person. So then people who look like me get pushed over to Chicago. And it's not because people who look like me don't have credit scores or aren't bringing home the money or nothing like that. I'm just saying it tends to be that in Evanston, when you look at these apartment complexes along Judson, along Michigan Avenue, when you look at the North Evanston Wilmette border, past McCormick Boulevard, who is over there? White people. Who's over there? We all know the Asians are over there by the high school if they're not in Wilmette and in the northern areas. We all know you can find the Hispanics in this area. You can find all the black people in this area. And then it's white people for days in this town. And this experience just showed me how people get pushed out of this town. Because you mean to tell me that unless I have these qualifiers, which there's no fucking way that I would have given my circumstance, but it's like, you mean to tell me if I don't hit this bar and hit this mark and this mark as well, then I have to go to subsidized housing. Since subsidized housing is full, all these bitches are at full capacity, then I have no choice. I literally had no choice but to move out of the town I resided in for 12 years. And I'm not mad at that because it had been my time to go. But the way in which that had to happen is what I take issue with. Because that doesn't make any damn sense to me at all. First of all, when it comes to the city of Evanston, for them to permit these organizations to do business in this town and have absolutely no obligation at all to cater to all the different types of residents in this area, there's a flaw in that. You know, some people may get on their high horse about that because, you know, they're living life luxuriously and it's not a problem for them. But bitch, it's a problem for me. It is a problem for me that you got all of these major real estate agencies, real estate companies that own all of these buildings. Oh my goodness, a new high rise is being built right now in Evanston. Like they didn't just use taxpayer dollars to build another high rise a year ago. Like, how about you build some more subsidized housing since all them bitches are at full capacity? Since motherfuckers really have to be pushed out of this town just to find housing. It's really damn ridiculous. People have to go to Rogers Park. People have to go into Chicago. Chicago has so many damn issues, you know, and that itself seems like no accident, but that's a whole nother thing. People are forced to flee to these places where the cost of living is lower, but that's when you consider the quality of the things that these people have. No wonder why the cost of living is lower. Look at the environments. Look at how underfunded the institutions are. People have no choice but to flock over there when their town starts increasing the prices of things. The minimum wage just went up in this area, okay, but so does the cost of living. Like, come on now. It doesn't, like, it's like you cannot win, it seems, unless you are fortunate enough to have a nice credit score be established for you, you know, unless you're fortunate enough to have somebody paying their way for you. You get pushed out of this town. You get pushed, and I'm sure it's not just this town, but I can't speak on like other places. I've not lived in other places as long as I've lived here. But my, oh my, like that was so frustrating to me. The city of Evanston, where my issue stood with them is that they were not willing to communicate with any of these agencies and just say, she's not making this stuff up. We really will pay her rent as long as we find out from you that you will house her. They just didn't want to communicate. And again, that doesn't make any sense. When do you look out for, where is the part where you look out for the residents in this area? Because we are not all balling. We are not all able to live in the mansions along the lake. Some of us out here are truly fucking hardworking people, working these working these bum ass jobs, working these minimum wage jobs, working these fucking busted ass jobs, these customer service jobs, these really difficult jobs, these emotionally draining jobs. Some of us are really out here, and you would never know it based on the checks that we take home, based on how much we have left once we pay our bills, once we pay our way. Like, this is really like, oh my god, I can't even express how irritating this is. Still, like, that's the thing, like, I have found a place to stay, but like, I'm still facing this issue where I'm like, something has got to give, because people are out here working too many damn jobs. People are out here slaving away, and it's like, for what? Ultimately, for what if they end up broke in the end? If they're after every check you have like $20 to go get your ass a coffee and a bagel. Like, that's damn ridiculous. It's like, we have to do better. And the city of Evanston recognizes the homeless population here. I know that for a fact because the high school, there is one high school here, that is Evanston Township High School. And I say here like I'm still in Evanston, but at Evanston Township High School, that school will not shut down if it's negative 13 degrees outside. Bitch, that is cold, okay? If it's negative 13 degrees outside, this school will not shut down. And the reason for not shutting down is because of the homeless population. It's because there are so many kids who don't have anywhere to go. They are relying on the resources. They are relying on what Evanston Township will give them. So that means everybody get up, everybody go to school. I mean, parents obviously have the right to tell their kids to stay home, but it's like, school is in session, you got to go. And it's because they need to be able to help the people relying on the resources. I appreciate that wholeheartedly. I appreciate that so much. Here's my thing though. How is it that on one scale, in one aspect, this city, or at least an institution in the city, can recognize that homelessness is an epidemic here? Homelessness is a crisis in this city, right? So why is it that the school can recognize that, but the countless real estate agents can't? The property managers can't. They seem to have no concept of homelessness. They seem to have no interest in catering to people, because every single person told me, no, we will not be able to help you. Even though in about a week I would have the funds that they would be asking me for as far as rent goes. Even though once my card came in the mail, give me a couple weeks, I would have, and I do now have, the credit score they kept on telling me that I needed to have. It's just so interesting. It's like, all I needed was time and for someone to give me a chance. That's all I needed. And every single organization was legally able to tell me no. There is something really wrong with that. And when I walk past people who are sitting outside shaking cups, talking about some change, it breaks my heart, because I see what I almost was. I see what I still have the potential to be. And it's not ever because someone really wants to be sitting outside talking about some change. It's because of these systems that are put in place that discriminate against people, that don't even offer people a chance. And then the fact that there is nothing that is enforcing or making or implementing this change, this checks and balance kind of system that says, hey, you can't just be catering and housing people who are wealthy. You can't just like cater to the people who can afford to live here and there and have properties here and there, especially when it comes to the like long-time residents. I was brought up in I was born in Evanston. I grew up in Miami, but I was brought back here. I have been living here for 12 years, or I was living there for 12 years. You mean to tell me there is nothing you can do to help me? Like, that was crazy to me as well. I'm like, so this is how people end up having to skedaddle. This is how people gotta end up leaving. Because where is the checks and balance? You know? Lord have mercy, that was my search. That was my search. It was extremely difficult. Like I said, people kept telling me no. I went to see many places. I spoke to many people. And as I stated, I ended up just having to go to a different town, just having to leave, because I was like, this is not, ultimately, this is not where I want to be anyway. However, like, this is an issue for me. This is a huge issue. And before I go, I just remember, like, something else that will really help is if these, not just that these organizations have some sort of change implemented or be required to cater to residents of this town who are of a different financial background, who are of, just coming from different places. Like, one of the things that Evanston does is pride itself and market itself as this super diverse place, this super colorful place, because you can walk down the street and see all types of like brown people and shit. So people, this is the North Shore. The North Shore is a notoriously white place. So Evanston and Chicago, that's where the color is, that's where the flavor is, that's where the sazon is. And it's like, if you're going to pride yourself and market yourself as this super diverse place, take care of the diversity, value the diversity, do something for the diversity. And that's not to suggest that there aren't people who are working towards that. Shout out to Connections for the Homeless. Thank you so much. Shout out to the Salvation Army. I didn't do anything with the Salvation Army, but you can find countless Salvation Armies here, and the Salvation Army does so much for people. There are organizations that I found that are not necessarily based in this town, but they will help you if you're coming from this town, and I'm very grateful for those people. However, we have to do better. We have to do better. Imagine how many more subsidized homes could be created in the town, since again, all them bitches are at full capacity, it seems. It's like, imagine how much people could do to help the people in this town, and then for that aid to bleed over to Chicago because of how underfunded the city as a whole is. Like, that is crazy. As Evanston keeps on building high rises and keep on catering to the wealthy people, because of course the city wants to draw in more people, marketing Northwestern, marketing this college town and stuff. I get it. It's all about business. It's all about just generating revenue. However, it's like, where is the concern for the people who make this town what it is? Where is the concern for the overall residents? When someone who's been a teacher at the high school for 20 years, for 15 years, can't even reside in the town because it's too expensive, that doesn't make any sense to me. If I'm a teacher, I gotta teach y'all kids and I gotta spend all this money on gas just to get to and from because I can't afford to live here. One, what are you paying me if I can't even afford to live here? Like, I always think it's interesting when it's like you are being paid a certain amount, but that certain amount does not permit you to like comfortably live in that town. That doesn't make any sense to me. But that's another thought. I'm gonna hop off of this train just cause I'm like, there's a lot. Another thing I think is that unless you go through the kinds of shit that like regular everyday people are going through when they are disadvantaged, then you wouldn't ever know. Like, if you're out here sitting comfortably, living life luxuriously along the lake, along McCormick Boulevard and shit, like, you would never know. You would never know that this is the kind of shit that people who are sitting outside talk about some spiritual change. This is what they're going through. These are the kinds of hurdles that are in front of them, and there needs to be something done. I cannot stand when people want to get up and go to another country to help the orphanage or the orphans and help all these people who are suffering from crises. Like, do you not see them every time you walk outside your house? Are you just not aware of... Lord have mercy. All right, y'all. Adiosito. Take care.